I almost quit. Not my job, not my business, my life. I was 31 years old, and I was standing in my apartment at 3 a.m., and I realized something that destroyed me. I had built an entire existence around avoiding one thing: fear. And the irony, the thing that actually made me want to end it all, was that avoiding fear had made me a coward anyway. I had become exactly what I was trying not to be. I just did it with better excuses. Here's what I was doing. I was waiting for a day when I wouldn't be afraid anymore, waiting to feel confident enough to speak up, waiting to feel brave enough to take risks, waiting for a version of myself that had somehow transcended human weakness. And while I waited, life was happening to other people, better people, braver people, or so I thought. But here's the thing I didn't understand back then, and here's what might be destroying you right now. The most courageous people in the world are not fearless. They're terrified, and they do it anyway, and that changes everything. Because what you've been sold, what every motivational speaker and self-help guru has whispered in your ear, is a lie. A beautiful, seductive lie that sounds like truth. Somewhere out there are men who feel no fear. They have transcended it. They have reached some level of enlightenment where courage flows naturally. Your job is to become like them. You believe this lie so completely that you've built your entire identity around it. You think weakness is fear. You think strength is the absence of doubt. So you suppress it. You hide it. You become a master of pretending. And the more you pretend, the more fractured you become, because you're now carrying two identities: the man you're pretending to be and the terrified man underneath who's screaming to get out. This is the Civil War. This is the fracture, and it's destroying you faster than any external enemy ever could. But what if I told you that everything you've been told about courage is backwards? What if the men you think are fearless are actually just better at lying to themselves? What if the real secret that separates courageous men from cowards has nothing to do with fear at all? Let me tell you a story. Not about a hero, about a disaster. I had a business partner, brilliant guy, smart, articulate, charismatic. Everyone believed in him, and he believed in himself so completely that he never let anyone see doubt. Not once, not ever. He was so committed to the image of fearlessness that he couldn't admit when he was wrong. He couldn't ask for help. He couldn't be vulnerable. And over the course of 3 years, that business collapsed. Not because he wasn't capable, because he was so terrified of being seen as afraid that he made every decision in isolation, refusing feedback, refusing collaboration, refusing reality itself. I watched a man destroy his life, trying to embody fearlessness. He had built the perfect mask, but underneath it was a terrified kid who had learned early that vulnerability equals weakness. And that mask cost him everything. That's when it hit me. The men who are actually courageous, the ones who build something real, who lead, who create, who don't just survive but actually thrive, they're not fearless. They're something much rarer and much more difficult to achieve. They're integrated. They feel the fear, and they do the thing anyway. Not because they're special, but because they've understood something fundamental that most men never figure out. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is honesty about fear, followed by action despite it. Let me be more specific, because abstract philosophy won't save your life. I was terrified to start ForgeMastery, paralyzed. I remember the night I almost deleted everything I had put together a core framework, and I looked at it and thought, who am I to teach this? I still fail. I still get scared. I still struggle. And that voice telling me I wasn't qualified, that I hadn't transcended fear, that I needed to wait until I felt more confident. That voice almost won. But I did something radical. I didn't wait for the fear to go away. I didn't pretend the fear wasn't there. I looked at it directly and asked, what would the man I'm becoming do? Would he let fear make the decision, or would he move forward anyway? And the answer I gave myself was brutal and honest. The man I'm becoming doesn't wait. The man I'm becoming is terrified and does it anyway. The man I'm becoming understands that courage isn't a feeling. It's a decision you renew every single morning. So I launched, shaken, doubting, absolutely convinced I was going to fail. And the worst part was that none of that mattered. The fear didn't determine the outcome. My action did. Now here's where most people stop listening, because this is where it gets uncomfortable. This is where the cultural narrative about courage completely falls apart. You've been told that confidence comes first. You've been told that you should feel brave before you act brave. You've been told that somewhere, somehow, you'll reach a point where fear won't show up anymore. This is the lie. This is what's keeping you fractured. This is what's keeping you from becoming who you're meant to be. The truth is the reverse. Confidence doesn't create courage. Courage creates confidence. You don't feel your way into becoming brave. You act your way into it. Every single time you do the hard thing despite being scared, you're sending a message to yourself. I can be trusted with difficult things. Over time, this message becomes bone deep. It becomes identity. It becomes unshakable. Think about the samurai warrior Musashi. You know what he was famous for? Not fearlessness, not some transcendent mastery of emotions. He was famous for something else entirely. He was famous for sitting in a cave for years and writing about fear, about how fear is information, about how a warrior who feels no fear is not a warrior. He's already dead. He's a corpse that just hasn't stopped moving. Musashi understood something crucial that modern culture has completely forgotten. The men with the most power are the men who can hold fear without letting it make their decisions. They feel it, they respect it, they use it, but they don't let it rule them. The Roman Stoics knew this too. Marcus Aurelius led an empire while being absolutely terrified, and he wrote about it. He didn't hide it. He said, "Fear will come, but I will not let fear become the author of my decisions." That's not fearlessness. That's integration. That's wholeness. And here's what kills me about where we are now. We've built an entire culture around hiding this. We've created a world where strength means never showing struggle, where masculinity means pretending you're not scared, where the successful man is the one who can lie best about his doubts. And the result? A generation of men so fractured, so split between who they're pretending to be and who they actually are, that they can barely function. You're walking around with a mask, Everyone is. And underneath the mask, you're terrified that someone will see that you're not actually brave. You're not actually confident. You're not actually qualified. You're just a guy who's pretending. And eventually, everyone is going to figure it out. But what if I told you that everyone is pretending? What if the secret is that the difference between courageous men and fearful men isn't that one got rid of fear and the other didn't? What if the difference is that one of them made a choice to move forward anyway? This is where everything changes. Because once you understand this, once you actually integrate this into your bones, you stop waiting. You stop trying to feel your way into courage. You make a decision about who you're going to be, and you commit to it regardless of how you feel. Let me give you something you can use right now. Not tomorrow, not when you feel ready. Right now. The man you're becoming does not negotiate with his own comfort. That's it. That's the entire principle. The man you're becoming doesn't hit snooze. He doesn't stay silent when he should speak. He doesn't choose the safe lie over the difficult truth. He doesn't wait for inspiration. He doesn't wait to feel brave. He moves. And here's the shocking part. Most men have never even considered what this means. They've been so focused on whether they feel brave that they've never asked the actual question. What would I do if I stopped caring about how I feel? Because here's the thing. Your fear is not your enemy. Your fear is your survival instinct. Your nervous system is ancient. It evolved to keep you alive in a world where danger was physical. But you're not living in the Serengeti anymore. You're not being hunted by predators. And yet your body is still producing the same cascades of adrenaline and cortisol when you're about to give a presentation or have a difficult conversation, as it would if you were in actual combat. Your body is not broken. Your body is trying to help you. It thinks this moment matters, and it does. So instead of viewing the shake in your hands as a sign of weakness, what if you viewed it as a sign that your body is mobilizing every resource it has to help you succeed? I'm not talking about positive thinking. I'm not talking about reframing as some kind of mental trick. I'm talking about looking at the actual mechanism of fear and understanding it so completely that it loses its power over you. When you understand that fear is just information, when you understand that the tremor in your hands is your body saying this matters, when you understand that vulnerability is not weakness but honesty, everything changes. Not your circumstances, you. The way you move through the world transforms. And I know what you're thinking. I know because I thought it too. This is nice philosophy, but how do I actually use this? So let me be brutally specific. Your alarm goes off at 5 a.m. Your nervous system is screaming at you to sleep. Your comfort is begging you to stay in bed. And in that moment, in that 2-second window between the alarm and your action, you have a choice. You can negotiate. You can tell yourself, 5 more minutes won't hurt. Or you can recognize something fundamental. The man I'm becoming doesn't negotiate with his own comfort. You get up, not because you want to, not because you feel energized, but because you've made a decision about who you are and you're committed to it, even when it's hard. That's one rep, one small act of courage. Over time, these reps compound. And here's what's miraculous. Each time you do this, you're not just accomplishing the external goal, you're rewriting your internal narrative. You're building evidence that you're the kind of man who can be trusted with difficult things. You're proving to yourself, not to anyone else but to yourself, that a courage is not a feeling you wait for. It's a choice you make over and over in 1,000 small moments. And over time, this evidence accumulates until it becomes something unshakable. It becomes identity. It becomes who you are. This is where the real transformation happens, not in the motivation, not in the inspiration, but in the daily choice to move forward despite being afraid. That's the forge. That's where you become forged into something real. But here's the thing nobody wants to hear. This never gets easy. You don't reach a level where fear goes away. The man who has built real courage isn't fearless. He's just made peace with fear so completely that he can coexist with it. He can feel the tremor and still make the cut. He can hear the doubt and still move forward. The difference between him and the fractured man isn't that fear doesn't show up. It's that he doesn't let fear make his decisions anymore. He's taken back his agency. And once you've tasted that, once you've felt what it's like to move your life in a direction that's true instead of safe, you can't go back. So here's what I want from you. And I'm not asking this lightly. I want you to identify one area of your life where you're not living as the man you're meant to become. One place where fear is making your decisions. One part of your kingdom that's in rebellion. And I want you to make one move. Just one. Not everything. One thing. Call the person you've been avoiding. Have the conversation you've been dreading. Do the work that scares you because it matters. Wake up at 5 a.m. and don't hit snooze. Admit to your partner that you're struggling. Apply for the job you think you'll fail at. Say no to something comfortable that's keeping you small. One move, one rep, one proof to yourself that you're the kind of man who does hard things despite being afraid. And here's the catch. You won't feel brave when you do it. You'll feel terrified. You'll doubt yourself. You'll want to retreat. And you'll do it anyway. Because that's what the man you're becoming does. If you want to go deeper into this, if you want the protocols, the frameworks, the daily practices that turn this from a philosophy into a lived reality, if you want to be part of a brotherhood of men who are committed to this work, who are holding each other accountable, who are forging themselves into something real, that's what we're building on Discord. We're not just talking about courage there. We're becoming the men who embody it. But right now, I want to hear from you in the comments. I want you to tell me, what's the one move? What's the one thing you're going to do that scares you? Because here's the secret. The moment you name it, the moment you say it out loud, you've already taken the first step. You've already begun to forge yourself. The men who move first win, not because they're braver, but because they understood something that most men never will. Courage is not something you find. It's something you build. With every hard choice, with every time you choose growth over comfort, with every moment you look fear in the eye and say, you don't get to decide who I become. Stop waiting for fearlessness. Start building courage. Today, right now. With one move. That's the art of living courageously.